You're on a boat, on the high sea, having a fierce struggle with the waves. The boat is small, tossed about like a toy. The sky is dark, and the sailor's strength is failing. Then one of them is gripped. By whom, by what, he cannot tell himself, but someone is there in the boat who wasn't there before. The unknown comes and lays cold hands in his arms as he pulls wildly at his oar. Then the unknown one reaches into his mind and heart and magically brings forth the strangest pictures. He sees his family, his children crying. What will become of them if he is no more? Suddenly, he can no longer see or hear anything. A wave overwhelms him, and in profound desperation he shrieks, "Stranger, in this boat! Who are you?" The unknown answers, "I am Fear." Now the cry goes up from the whole crew. Fear is in the boat. All arms are frozen as they drop their oars. All hope is lost. Fear is in the boat. A sermon given in 1933 by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, titled Overcoming Fear, is based off of the Bible passage Matthew 8:23-27, the story of the great storm on the Sea of Galilee and the miracle of Jesus calming it. Bonhoeffer wrote the sermon leading up to World War II, when everyone in Germany faced the fear of life or death. Hitler, the cause of all that fear, had begun building an empire from the time of 1920, when he gave his speech titled, "Why We Are Anti-Semites." Both Bonhoeffer and Hitler proposed a way that all of Germany could deal with the fears they faced. Hitler focused on facing fears outside the boat, when he called the Jews lazy, parasitic, a plague, and robbers, while Bonhoeffer challenged the Germans to face the fear that was right in front of them, in the boat. He taught them how to grow in peace and courage with the strength of Jesus Christ. When Bonhoeffer and Hitler's speeches are put in parallel, every time Hitler attacks the Jews or evokes fear, Bonhoeffer refutes it. My dear countrymen and women, we are quite used to being referred to as monsters, and we are considered particularly monstrous because in the question that certain gentlemen in Germany are nervous about, we are marching at the head, namely in the question to the opposition of the Jews. The overcoming of fear, that is what we are proclaiming here. Fear crouches in people's hearts and hollows out their insides until their resistance and strength are spent, and they suddenly break down. Fear tries to break all the ties that binds a person to God and to others. And when in a time of need that person reaches for those ties, they break. And that person sinks back into himself or herself, helpless and despairing, while hell rejoices. A state with a rotten, sick, and unsound race will never be able to make great works of art, make great politics, or at least bask in abundance. No anti-Semite would have been able to write a more terrible indictment against the Jewish race than the Bible, the Old Testament. But let's look at its sentence. By the sweat of thy brow thou shalt eat bread. And it says it was to be a punishment for the fall of men. For them, work is not an obvious ethical duty, but at most a means to sustenance. For us, this is not work, because any action serving self-preservation without regard to fellow men might be called work. We do not call it work, but robbery. Anyone who has seen naked be revealed, who has been its victim in terrifying loneliness, fear of an important decision, fear of a heavy stroke of fate, fear of a vice one can no longer resist, to which one is enslaved, fear of disgrace, fear of another person, fear of dying. That person knows that fear is only one of the faces of evil itself, one form by which the world, at the immunity of God, grasps for someone. The Jew is the destroyer of the state. He's only able to live as a parasite in the states of others. Heavy plagues came over the nations, no less than 10 in Egypt. And finally, the Egyptians lost their patience. There was nothing left then for the Egyptians to force them. We are all along on that voyage, aren't we? Without faith, without hope, and paralyzed we've lost heart, lost the joy of living, and our limbs heavy as lead. Each of us knows what it's like. And there is such a thing as false confidence. And false confidence in itself is only the subtlest form in which fear disguises itself. Only faith that lets fear fall and break away can overcome fear. This is faith. It does not rely on itself or on favorable seas, favorable conditions, but believes only and alone in God, whether or not there is a storm.
We realize that if this action does not penetrate into the masses, everything will be in vain. We will never be able to think about rebuilding our country. We know that one will have to cut deep. This action will remain adamant, which means removal of the Jewish race from our country, because we value the existence of our race 1,000 times higher than that of an alien race.
That is the final triumph of fear over us. We are afraid to run away from it. We just let it enslave us. Fear has conquered us. Have you ever seen someone in the grip of fear? The staring eyes, the shivering like an animal? The pleading attempt to defend oneself 1,000 times higher than that of an alien race. Fear takes away a person's humanity. This is not what a creature made by God looks like. This creature belongs to the devil. This enslaved, broken down, sick creature. Fear is in the boat, in Germany, in our own lives, and in the nave of this church. Fear is breathing down our necks.
We do not promise a heaven, but one thing. If we are able to carry out this program in Germany, maybe the time will come which once again we will have the opportunity to have a life. Those who are not willing to fight for the blessings of our state, die. And as I said earlier, I will pursue it to the last spark of my strength and the last breath in my lungs.
That is the final triumph of fear over us. But the human being should not be afraid. We shouldn't be afraid. We name the name who makes evil inside us recoil, who will nail it to the cross and commit it to oblivion. We name the name who is a shout of victory in the midst of hopelessness. Jesus Christ, the crucified and living one. Then fear will grow pale and fade away, and you will be free through your faith in our strong and living Savior, Jesus Christ. Then it is as if the heavens has opened, when as a great shout of victory cried out in the midst of hopelessness, Christ is in the boat! Christ is in the boat! And no sooner has the calling out, the fear shrinks back and the waves subside. The sea becomes calm and the boat rests quiet on its surface. Christ was in the boat. Thank you.